Good evening. You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. Folks, I have been for the last 3 days writing feverishly to get this issue of Veritas out, and it's almost ready to put to press, or put to bed and go to press. However, those news people papers say that stuff, because I'm new at this and I really don't know the language yet, nor am I sure that I ever will. But I do know this: we've got the best newspaper in the world, bar none. There's some hot stuff in this second issue that is going to really open your eyes. And that ain't all. So, folks, starting the latter part of next week, you can start looking for it in your mailbox, those of you who are subscribers. And don't forget, this newspaper goes free gratis to the President, Vice President, every member of the Cabinet, all of the Supreme Court judges, the United States Attorney General, old Waco Massacre Reno, every member of the House of Representatives, and every member of the United States Senate, every governor of every state in the Union, on my nickel. On my nickel. I'm the only newspaper that does that. Actually, it's not just my nickel, it's our nickel. It's Mike and Bart's nickel and my nickel. So, just bear in mind when you read Veritas that everybody, that is anybody, that counts for anything is also reading it. Don't go away. I'll be right back with some hot, raw intelligence. I love it. It's good to be back in front of this microphone, even though I'm very tired. I've had about, 5 hours of sleep in the last 48 hours, and maybe 4 or 5 in the 24 hours before that. And I'll be up all night tonight, and we'll probably get maybe 3 or 4 hours tomorrow morning. But that's the way we work around here. You see, we just have one rule. Only one. We see what is the right thing to do, and we trust in God, and we just do it. That's all there is to it, Mr. Pruitt. You can tell I'm tired when I start rhyming on the radio. This is from the Pittsburgh Experience, the community newspaper of Pittsburgh Township and area. And this is Canada, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this. The Royal Military College was a high-activity area during this weekend. Blank ammunition and small-scale pyrotechnics and smoke grenades were used. As well, visitors to the college were required to present identification and were subject to search prior to being allowed access to college grounds. Beginning last Friday, March 17th at 4:30 p.m., the officer cadets of the Royal Military College of Canada began participation in an internal security exercise on Royal Military College grounds, both north and south of Highway Number 2. The exercise concluded at 9 p.m. Saturday. The aim of this exercise was to provide the Royal Military College cadets with a practical opportunity to exhibit their leadership skills in a real-life scenario involving internal security violations. Internal security violations. Real-life scenario. Some of the main activities during this exercise included perimeter security duties, patrols, building searches, building evacuations, and responses to bomb threats, crowd control, and unauthorized entry. Unauthorized entry. Unauthorized entry. I have to say it 3 times for some of the sheeple. Those of you who are not sheeple, please forgive me. There was no disruption of normal civilian community activities during this time period, as all activities took place on D&D property, whatever D&D means. They don't explain it here. It's bad reporting. The cadets of RMC will be volunteering their services to the Kingston community in a charity cleanup on April 1st through 2nd. Any individuals or groups who require assistance with projects may request the labor services of a cadet or cadets by contacting the Royal Military College. And then they ask for donations. Donations will be accepted, but are not required. Oh, what nerve. You see, folks, it's not just happening here. Hitler never did this. Hitler did not do this until he was legitimately established in power. These guys haven't got there yet. They're already doing it. No disruption to the civilian routine. Visitors were subject to search, had to present ID cards. Both sides of a highway. Taxpayers' rights proposal spells doom, IRS says. Bill would shift burden of proof. Washington, Congress is considering turning the tables on the Internal Revenue Service. Proposed legislation would force the agency to prove taxpayers are wrong in disputed cases rather than requiring filers to prove they are right. Now look at this, folks. If you got a copy of the Constitution for the United States of America, I want you to read it. And then I want you to listen to this. Taxpayer rights proposal spells doom. Bill would shift the burden of proof. It's not shifting anything. They're going to put it back where it always has been and should have always been. The IRS shifted the burden of truth a long time ago. And that's right, I said burden of truth. Because that's exactly what it comes down to. You see, the people who are bringing all this about are liars, deceivers, and manipulators. And they claim that they're good people doing this for the good of humankind. One thing I've learned in my life, folks, liars aren't doing anything for the good of humankind ever. And nothing good was ever built upon a lie. IRS Commissioner Margaret Milner Richardson warned the House Ways and Means Oversight Subcommittee on Friday that the change would destroy the tax system. Good. Start writing your congressman now. If it'll destroy the tax system, we must support it. You know, I'm for paying all legal and lawful taxes that I am legally and lawfully required to pay, and I do. And so should you. The graduated income tax, a plank of the Marxist Communist Manifesto, is unconstitutional, illegal, and unlawful. The 16th Amendment was never ratified and therefore is not law. Is not law. And I could go on and on. In fact, I could turn this whole show and the next 20 shows into just exposing the lies perpetrated by the Internal Revenue Service. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights legislation. Taxpayer Rights proposal, I should say. I'm trying to find the name of it here, and I can't find the name of it. Maybe they don't want us to know what the name of it is. No, I can't find it. I cannot find it. I'm looking. Okay, here it is. Johnson says she hoped this year to enact what she called a Taxpayer Bill of Rights 2. Among provisions being considered is expanding the power of the IRS Ombudsman to issue orders protecting taxpayers. You know what? We really should not support this because it's supporting an illegal system. The whole thing is illegal, unlawful, and unconstitutional. Forget what I said earlier. I'm sleepy and tired. You'll have to forgive me. Japan cult similar to Davidians. What did I tell you? Was I right or was I right? Of course. Of course I'm right. It's the only place we hear the truth is right here. I told you that they would connect that to a fundamentalist religious, and they would call it a cult. Didn't I? And that's exactly what they did. And I didn't expect them to do it this soon. Japan cult, similar to Davidians. Were you watching television tonight, folks? On HBO, they're running a propaganda movie about the Branch Davidians, and what little bit of it I watched made me so sick I couldn't stand it. If conditions in that church were the way they portrayed it on television tonight in this HBO movie, if David Koresh was the person that they portrayed in that movie, those people would never have been there. They never would have stayed in there, and they never would have died. And they wouldn't be the nice, wonderful people that you see on the tape that we've been sending out all over this country. The heat must really be on for them to be coming out with such crap as this. And, folks, you can look, just like I said, remember, you can look for stepped-up terrorist activity, and you can look for every single incident to be blamed upon a fundamentalist religious organization, and they will call them a cult. And very shortly, within the next year, you can expect another Waco massacre. I don't know what the proper name of it will be, but you can expect it to happen. And when it does, it won't. You understand what I'm saying? When it happens, it won't be the people in the church who lose the battle the next time. I can assure you of that. If nobody else shows up to fight on this side, I will. I will. Japan cult, similar to Davidians. Leaders broadcast raises terrorist fears. Boston Globe. A secretive sect being investigated in the fatal nerve gas attack on the Tokyo subway system this week is a potent addition to the ranks of international extremist groups, with adherents capable of everything from random murder to mass suicide, according to police, scholars, and disaffected members. While investigators are still trying to pull together thorough information about the group known as Aum Shinri Kyo, or Aum Supreme Truth, many observers note ominous similarities between the sect and the Branch Davidians. A Christian cult whose holdout at its compound near Waco, Texas, ended in a fatal confrontation with federal authorities in April 1993. Cult members, all through here, terrorism, cult facilities, cult, reprisals, cultists, cult, long-haired, cult. Boy, it's a good thing they didn't learn this word cult back in the 60s. Whoa. All you guys out there that used to be hippies be dead now. Dead. Long hair. Cultists. You know something really strange, folks? You never hear any reference to drugs. Isn't that weird? Maybe that's because the people who are doing all the massacring are the ones who came out of the 60s and are still smoking. What do you think? No, not me. I didn't inhale, and I feel your pain. Record United States trade deficit. What did I tell you? What did I tell you, Jose? I told you. You didn't listen. What's going to happen? You're going to get poor. Old Norte Americano's going to get poor. Everybody going to be poor. And I'm not making fun of the Mexicans. They don't like this any more than we do. I can guarantee you that. They don't even like the bailout that Clinton said wasn't a bailout. He says it's not a loan. It's not a gift. It's not a bailout. What is it? What is it? Anybody know? Record U.S. trade deficit. Just a couple of months ago, they said there wouldn't be any trade deficit because of NAFTA and GATT. Right? Said everything was going to be really neat and this was going to fill the coffers of America. Ooh. Well, I got to tell you, folks, it's not working that way. In January, we were $12.23 billion in the hole. The United States set a record trade deficit in January as Mexico's currency crisis cut into exports while demand for foreign toys, televisions, and heavy machinery pushed imports higher. And as the dollar sinks even lower, and it is at even more record lows now than when I last spoke to you, as the dollar sinks lower, the price for foreign goods gets higher, and the trade deficit will get bigger, and you can take NAFTA and GATT and use them where they belong, next to your toilet. The Commerce Department reported Tuesday that the imbalance in goods and services rose 68.4% to $12.23 billion, up from a December deficit of $7.26 billion. And they said that was going to go away, remember? This represented the highest deficit in goods and services since the government began tracking this data on a monthly basis in 1992. Looking just at merchandise, the deficit of $16.3 billion was the highest in United States history, surpassing the record of $15.9 billion set in December 1985. And I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to get much sleep tonight, so I don't want to be up all night thinking about this. I'm not going to read anymore. Mexican debtors fighting back. Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this, folks. This is wonderful. In fact, I may go down and help Jose. Jose is turning out to be a good guy. A real good guy, as you're going to hear. You see, the common people in Mexico, they're doing what you would do, folks. You know, I hate to hear Americans talk about how they hate these guys coming across the border to get jobs over here. It's not the people coming across the border, folks, that are causing problems. They're just looking for a job. They're looking for money. They'll sleep in a ditch to make some money because they can't make it down there and they don't have an education. And up here they can make some money. See, what the jobs that Americans won't take are extremely attractive, wealthy, high-paying jobs to those people. And if you live down there, you'd be doing the same thing. And that's the truth of the matter. In fact, everybody out there listening to me right now, are descended from people who did exactly that. You escaped from the old world because you were being persecuted for some reason or another. Or your ancestors were criminals, or they were slaves, or they were indentured servants, or they were religious cults that the king didn't like. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe anybody should come into this country illegally. I think that they should not even have the quotas to let people in. I mean, our population is going to expand and take up what room we have. But at the same time, I understand how we got here, and I understand their motivations, and I don't hate those people. I don't even dislike those people. In fact, most of them that I've ever met are good, solid family people. Just trying to make it. Of course, now they're kids. That's a different story. That's a different story. It may not be all the parents' fault, although I attribute most of it to parents, usually. But you see, if a parent tries to discipline his child now, child abuse, jail. Children taken away, families split up, parents branded as criminals and locked away. And all across the country, liberals are screaming that pro-lifers are out to take their rights away from them. And in Los Angeles, Liberalville, Los Angeles, Liberalville, par excellence, nothing exceeds Los Angeles for liberalism except possibly New York City. They wanted to put a man in jail for a minimum of 1 year because he killed some puppies he didn't want. Can anybody out there explain this to me? It's insane. Absolutely insane. They can pull arms off of human fetuses, pull the heads off the little bodies, whack them up in little pieces. They want to put this guy in jail because he killed a couple of puppies. Sick. I don't think liberals can even explain that to themselves. Oh, I'm pregnant. I'm going to have an abortion. Oh, you killed your little puppy. Oh, you must be put in jail. You're a terrible, terrible criminal man. It escapes me, folks. I don't know how to explain that. I don't even know how to talk about it. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Now, I'm not one to go around yelling at people because they have an abortion. I'm pro-life. I think abortion is murder. But I don't go around preaching it. You'll never see me standing in front of an abortion clinic. And you'll never see me choose a president because he's pro or con abortion issue. You know why? Because I don't care how loud you scream. I don't care how high you jump up and down. I don't care how many abortion doctors you kill. The law will decide whether abortion is legal or illegal. If it's illegal, then you can't have an abortion. And if you get caught having an abortion or performing an abortion, then you have to pay the consequence. If it's legal, then that's a moral issue between you and God and your community. Nobody else can do anything about that. You see, the only solution when it's a matter of the law, ladies and gentlemen, is to take a gun in hand and force your will on other people through the sheer force of might. And ain't none of you out there going to do that. So why are you chasing this red herring around? Yes, I agree with you, it's murder. Yes, I don't like it. But the law says it's legal. So what are you going to do? Are all of you going to get together and take up arms and go against the federal government? Because that's what you'll have to do. And if you do that, you're insurrectionists. And you'll be put down. Put down hard. And you'll be called a cult. I can guarantee it. So, now, if the whole nation wanted to do that, then you could win. But the whole nation doesn't, and probably never will. So, it's a red herring. You're chasing a red herring. You're wasting your time. It doesn't matter who you elect to the office of president, the Supreme Court will decide whether abortion is legal or illegal. It will never be decided by Congress, and it will never be decided by a vote of the people. If it is decided by Congress, and the Supreme Court has already ruled that it's legal, the Supreme Court will say that the law is unconstitutional, because the Constitution has nothing to do with abortion. And that's the truth. And don't give me this right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That just tells me that you haven't read the Constitution, because nowhere in the Constitution will you find that phrase. You will find that phrase in the Declaration of Independence, my friends. So let me tell you about Jose. How did I get on that subject? I must really be tired. I'm rambling tonight. You know what I feel like? I feel like I'm sort of walking around in a fog. And I know that I've got to be up all night and write more so that you'll get a wonderful paper at the end of next week. And the longer I stay up, the foggier it gets. And then suddenly you reach a point where the fog goes away. And you think clearly. And you still haven't had any rest. And I don't know how that happens, but it does. Businessmen and farmers join against banks. Mexican debtors fighting back. Listen to this. It is amazing and it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. You're going to like this, folks. This gives people hope. Mexico City, when Mexican avocado farmer Porfirio Ponce died of a heart attack after a bank lawyer threatened to foreclose on his property, the Barzan movement struck back. More than 200 people from the National Debtors Organization carried Ponce's coffin into a rural branch of Mexico's Sotnin Bank, according to Juan Jose Quirino Salas, Barzan's national coordinator. We left it there for about 2 hours, Quirino said. They called around to the main offices, then they agreed to renegotiate. That happened in Michoacan State in November, when Mexico's economy was just starting to tumble into crisis. Now, as the economy crashes and Mexicans, as a result, are paying 100% annual interest on credit, the Barzan is much stronger and its tactics tougher. How would you like to have your dollar devaluated? Your salary doesn't change. The payment on your house is still there, and interest goes up to 100%. That's what most people would be doing. And that's what's happening in Mexico. And that's what's going to happen here. Now as the economy crashes and Mexicans as a result are paying 100% annual interest on credit, the Barzan is much stronger and its tactics tougher. The Barzan, which means plowshare, claims 500,000 members, most small and medium-sized farmers and business owners. On Thursday, the Barzan sent hundreds of activists into Mexico City to recruit new members and urge debtors to default on their loans. In rural states where the Barzan is strongest, thousands picketed 800 banks, Guarino said. More than 200 banks closed down. More than 200 banks closed down, which means it's only going to get worse. Either voluntarily or because Barzan activists wouldn't let people through the doors, he said. Not only has the group declared war on Mexico's already failing banking system, it's galvanizing anger over the economic crisis into a kind of middle-class guerrilla movement. And you ain't seen nothing yet. This is going to happen worldwide. You haven't really even begun to get a taste. I want to see what happens to spoiled America. So used to having everything they want whenever they want it. It's going to be terrible. John Bailey, a Mexican expert at Georgetown University, said the Barzan is potentially more disruptive than the Zapatista rebels who launched a 1994 offensive in southern Mexico. They're serious, middle-class people who know how to use the system, Bailey said. They have skills, resources. They're ferocious who've gone over the edge. Now, when they say ferocious, I don't know if they're talking about Ross Perot or not. I really don't. But it looks like it. If the people they're encouraging to do default, we're in serious trouble, said Roberto Aguirre, a spokesman for Surfin. Surfin is one of numerous Mexican banks sliding into crisis as interest rates rise so high that Mexicans can't make payments. You know what happens when you can't make payments? They come and take away everything that you're paying on. Currently, rates on loans are at least 65%. Rates on credit cards are over 100%. Surfin and another major bank, Banamex, have announced employee cutbacks of 25 to 40%. The government in February seized 3 banks. Millions grow desperate. The banking crisis is part of the economic crash started with the December devaluation of the peso by 35%. Now prices are doubling, sales are plummeting, and businesses are laying off workers are closing down. The Barzan, which helps debtors get loans renegotiated by private advice and lawyers, are intimidating the banks, draw recruits from the millions of Mexicans growing desperate. Guarino said the Barzan's drastic tactics, picketing banks, occupying them, and leaving coffins in lobbies are fair play since banks use aggressive tactics. He said that in the Michoacan town of Apatzingan, a lawyer for Surfin made very aggressive phone calls threatening to take over Ponce's 400-employee avocado farm and packing plant. Don't go away. I'll be right back, and you don't want to miss the rest of this. Wait till you see what these guys are doing.
anybody know what kind of music this is? Well, I hate to read you an article like that and tell you to call Swiss America Trading, but that's exactly what you ought to do. And that's not why I read the article. It just occurred to me you might think that. Nope, it's not. It's not the reason why at all, as you will see as I get more into it. But folks, the same thing is going to happen here. How do I know? I know a lot of things that you will never know unless I tell you, or unless somebody else who knows what I know tells you. See, most Americans walk around, they don't listen to anything other than what's presented to them on their television set or on regular radio, and I'm not talking about most of you out there because you don't fit into this category. They just don't know. They think everything is hunky-dory. It's a hoot. Life's a hoot. Hey, Bill, life's a hoot. Somebody said that to me down in Atlanta, Georgia. I love those people dearly. They're wonderful. But like most people, they're living in a dream world. They're not dealing with reality. See, I know a few things that most of you don't know. I'm just going to give you a couple of little hints. What would happen if Russia decided to make an alliance with the South African ANC and OPEC? Did some lights come on? You better read Veritas, because it'll tell you what I'm talking about. Did you know that Europe exports more to Russia, about 5 times more than we do? And you know that Russia exports about 19 times more to Europe than they do to us? Did you know that Russia is now on a border with Europe, a common border? Do you know these things? What would happen if the European Union and Russia got together? Ooh, are the wheels turning? What's going to happen when what's going on in Mexico tips over the other dominoes down through Central America and into South America? And who's going to deal with the revolutions that are going to take place because of it? Have you thought about that? Well, I do all the time. I've been thinking about it for months. And I know the answers, but I'm not going to tell you tonight. But I will tell you this. You better get your little butts over your telephone, and you better stick your finger in those little buttons there and dial Swiss America Trading. You better start covering yourself now. Right now. Things are going to get tough. Real tough. And you know what all this stuff is training for? They're not training to come and get the militias, although they will go after the militia leaders when the time arrives to do that. They're preparing for an economic collapse and the social unrest and insurrection that will accompany that economic collapse. That's why I've been warning you and telling you. The primary mission of the militia should be to maintain political and military control of your local area. Because little Susie that you think is so sweet is going to get really mad when her welfare check is cut off. And Joe, the real nice guy that does the logging, he's going to be super pissed when they say he doesn't have a job anymore. And everybody's going to get hot under the collar when they go down to the local Safeway store and there's nothing on the shelves. 1-800-289-2646. 1-800-289-2646. Call now. Now, if you don't think that can happen here, go and get a song that Frank Zappa wrote. Go get a song that Frank Zappa wrote and listen to it very carefully. He wrote a song. The title of that song is It Can't Happen Here. And I just got a letter today from a lady. And she reminded me of that song. She said, it looks like Frank Zappa's song, It Can't Happen Here, is happening here. Because all the things in his song that he said can't happen here are now happening here. And it's going to get worse. 1-800-289-2646. Now. Do it now.
It's for the culture. The legacy is thick. Yeah. It's Planet Asia, nigga. Medallions. Yeah. 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 Shell, toe, Adidas, and feelers, head spins and reefer. Jackie for your black and red suede, Puma sneakers, Croker sacks and Dickie suits, Dookie ropes and Kangos. Graffiti on every wall with crazy angles. Hell's Angels, rock steady LA breakers. Assalamu alaikum, never eating bacon. Supreme Ab, beats to the nation. Beats from the basement, nameplate belts, gazelles and fat laces. Back to the basics, high top fades, doing the Steve Martin, Robo-copping and Reebok in the heydays of Boogaloo Sam. Popping Pete before he hit Japan, before any rapper went to the motherland. The history was destined to be a blessing. Now it's global. We taking shit back right to the essence for the culture. We went from bus stops to Testarossas, from flyers to posters, from Arsenio to Oprah.
Okay, folks, listen to this and listen carefully. This is really neat stuff. He got very anxious and depressed. Guerrero said he couldn't sleep, and then he had a heart attack. Employees at the Surfing Branch in Apat Zingan confirmed the coffin in the lobby story, but wouldn't otherwise comment. Surfing spokesman Aguirre said the bank tried to clean house of very aggressive lawyers, but it's possible there are still some out there, he said. If you believe that, I'll give you a bank. In the Veracruz town of Tantoyuca, Barzan, and forgive me if you're of Mexican origination and I'm mispronouncing these names. I'm not, and I don't speak Spanish, and I don't have time to learn, and I'm not going down there in the foreseen future, so please forgive me. In the Veracruz town of Tantoyuca, Barzan activist Carlos Villegas led others in taking Reinaldo Arita's body to the local branch of a major bank. Arita died of a heart attack after being told that his bank would take over his cattle ranch since he wasn't paying off his $80,000 loan. Villegas said they took the coffin to the door of the bank and dropped it there. They were a lot more sensitive after that, he said. A Tantoyuca branch manager who asked not to be identified said the coffin wasn't purposely brought to the bank. We're close to the church and all the funeral processions pass by here. This guy thinks he's talking to dummies all over the world. They dropped the coffin of the guy who died of a heart attack because the bank was going to repossess his cattle ranch. They dropped the coffin right in front of the door of the bank, and this branch manager said the coffin wasn't purposely brought to the bank. Oh, I tell you, people really sometimes display an unreasonable amount of guts, I guess. I would never have the guts to tell anybody that when they're staring me in the face after something so obvious. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. But you see, these people are so used to lying, and people are so used to believing lies that I guess he thinks he's telling the truth. I don't know. But Arrieta's son, a pediatrician, backed up the Barzan version. The stress my father was under played a role in his heart attack, he said. He said his father tried to sell off cattle and equipment to make payments, but no one was buying because of the economic crisis. It's been very bad here, Arrieta said. The banks have been taking over a lot of people's property, but now the Barzan interferes. As soon as someone hears the bank is going to take over, the Barzan arrives and defends the property. The Barzan arrives and defends the property, and that's what we're getting to. Tactic closes banks. Wouldn't you love to do that? I mean, not to hurt people and not to hurt the bank, but to make a point that these people are stealing the country right out from under us. And I'm talking about Federal Reserve banks. Clarino said the occupation of banks is a pressure tactic that usually closes them down for a few days at most. But Serfin spokesman Aguirre said that in another Veracruz town, Barzan activists closed 2 branches of major commercial banks for 2 weeks. They closed down Serfin for a few days, and we couldn't figure it out because we don't even have that many creditors there. Aguirre and other bank spokesmen say banks are working to renegotiate loans so customers don't default. Now, you know what happens when you renegotiate a loan? You spread the principal out over a longer period of time, and you pay about 40 times more interest. If you don't believe me, sit down with a calculator and figure it out. You may think you're paying $100,000 for your home, but I'm telling you right now, if you really think that, you're not playing with a full deck of cards. You need a straitjacket and a place to sleep. And that's the truth. Depending on the interest, you're paying at least $300,000 for your $100,000 home. That's what interest does to you. So don't go around and tell people you bought the house for $100,000, because that's baloney. It makes you feel good, and it makes you feel like you're not a sucker. But the truth is that the truth is another story. Aguirre and other bank spokesmen say banks are working to renegotiate loans so customers don't default. But last Thursday in Mexico City, Barzan activists were signing up new members, and there was no dearth of recruits. At a table in front of Bancomer, a major bank, 30 people signed up during the morning hours. Barzan activists said the pile of applications seemed to attest to the claim. I'd like to pay off my debt, but my interest rate is 148%, said Raimundo Quiroz, a Mexico City photography teacher. 148% interest. Quiroz said his bank sent him a letter that said, protect the security of your family, pay off your debt. Oh, I bet he would in a second if he could. I bet he's kicking himself in the butt for ever taking out the loan. I'm glad I don't owe anybody anything. Adolfo Aguilar, an independent federal legislator, said that Barzan is powerful because no one in Mexico is happy. If there was ever a time when Mexico would erupt in violence, it's now, he said. And I'm telling you, it's gonna. Not just in Mexico, but all through Central America and South America, there's going to be the greatest wave of revolutions and violence that you've ever dreamed of in your life. And guess who's going to get bogged down in Vietnam #2, trying to keep the peace? Yep, you guessed it. And guess who's going to pay for it? Yep, you guessed that too. IRS taking a closer look at taxpayers. This is from the Daytona Beach News Journal, March 18th, Daytona Beach, Florida, by Vivian Marino, Associated Press business writer. From now on, if you get it audited by the IRS, they won't just scrutinize your 1040 form, your pay stubs, and your charity receipts. They might take a look at what kind of car you drive, ask how you catered your child's wedding, or find out how much your rich uncle left you in his will. Beginning this year, all individuals selected for Internal Revenue Service audits will find their personal lives, as well as their returns scrutinized for evidence of unreported income. Yeah, you're going to be standing there. One of them's going to disappear, and the next minute you're going to find his hand in your pocket. Beginning this year, all individuals selected for Internal Revenue Service audits will find their personal lives, as well as their returns, scrutinized for evidence of unreported income. It wants to know how someone with a $30,000 income can afford a $400,000 house or drive around in a new Lincoln, said Joseph F. Lane, a former IRS supervisor from Menlo Park, California, who now represents clients in tax disputes. I say we ought to fire them, follow them around and check into their personal life and find out why they have a $400,000 house on a $30,000 income. Actually, it's nobody's business, including the IRS. The IRS is quietly instituting the changes as part of a strategy to get more people to pay their taxes. Uncollected taxes total at least $127 billion a year, IRS figures show. The agency's goal is to raise the compliance rate from the current 83% to 90% by 2001. They're already lying. The compliance rate is not even close to 83% today. So many people have quit filing and quit paying. because they found out the scam, the fraud. The IRS doesn't want you to know what the true figures are. Some tax experts who have seen the training manuals the IRS is preparing for its 15,500 auditors contend some of the new procedures are too invasive. Heck, just the fact that they exist is too invasive for me. They're trying to turn these auditors, who are basically accountants, into detectives, said Frederick W. Daly, a San Francisco tax attorney and author of Stand Up to the IRS. Sure, Frederick Daly, Stand Up to the IRS. Have you read his book? He doesn't stand up to the IRS. He just plays their game. They're supposed to look for body language. They want to know what kind of car you drive, whether you have relatives with money. The IRS is getting away from your return, and now it's you being put under a microscope. You see, the reason they look for body language, folks, is if you're standing there picking your nose, they know darn well you ain't got no money. Body language. Can you believe these guys? Accountants turning into detectives. Practice raid. The Columbus Dispatch, Saturday, March 4th, 1995. Practice raid preps deputies for real thing, real thing, real thing, real thing, real thing, rah, 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 real thing. Practice raid preps deputies for real thing. In Lancaster, Ohio, with deputies dressed in black uniforms, hoods, and helmets. Sounds like terrorists to me. Doesn't sound like deputies. This sounds like the ninja guys in the movies. They're sneaking around in the dark, climbing up buildings, breaking in windows, and killing people. These aren't deputies. These are gangstas. Gangstas, yeah. But it was real, sort of. The members of the Fairfield County Sheriff's Emergency Response Team were practicing securing a building safely and quickly. Listen to this. Listen to this, folks. See, they only learned one thing from Waco. I quote, "Such maneuvers are important for deputies serving search warrants," said Sheriff Gary DeMastri. End quote. How did we get by all those years with somebody knocking on the door and serving a search warrant without any violence? How in the world did we ever do it? My. And where do they get all of these men who are so sexually inadequate that they got to play cowboys and Indians until they're 60 years old? Yeah. About 6 months ago, DeMastri handpicked 10 officers. Oh, it's the elite team, to receive specialized training twice a month. Twice a month. That's a big expenditure for a sheriff's department. He also bought $15,000 worth of equipment to outfit the team, probably through the confiscated fund sharing scheme that they've got now. They find somebody who's got some money. They go out and say he's got some drugs. They take all his money. They don't charge him with anything. And they go out and buy their $15,000 worth of equipment to outfit the team, including gas masks, riot helmets, and radio equipment. I was looking for deputies who are able to keep their cool in the face of situations that might go awry. They had to be in good physical shape, reliable, and have good common sense, DeMastri said. So he went down to the local donut shop, said, you, and you, because you're not out on patrol where you should be, come with me, you're in the new squad. And I'll bet you that's exactly how it happened. Yep, I'll bet you that's exactly how it happened. You know, I used to have great respect and great liking and all kinds of things for police officers. Not anymore. Not anymore. I don't know anybody. I do not know anybody who doesn't absolutely get struck with a lightning bolt of fear when they just see a police officer anymore. Doesn't matter who they are. And when that happens in America, the police are no longer our friends. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some good cops out there. I know one. His name is Dave Mann. He's the one that did the audio tape of the visitor from the past. In fact, as soon as this issue is out, Dave and I are going fishing. He made me promise, because I worked too hard, to take a day off and go fishing with him, and I'm going to do that. Apologies. Here's another one. Listen to this. Wednesday, March 15th, 1995. But I got to tell you, Dave is in the minority. His fellow officers pick on him every once in a while because he believes in the Constitution. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Wednesday, March 15th, 1995. Florida Today. This is from Today in Florida. And apologies extended over fake armed raid. Cocoa City officials offered strong apologies to some residents Tuesday after armed U.S. Customs agents. Now, these are U.S. Customs agents. Next, it'll be librarians. Next week, the librarians are going to stage a raid on an empty hotel in Podunk, Michigan, using dynamite, anti-tank weapons, 50 caliber machine guns, yes. And they'll be dressed like Ninja Turtles. Isn't this insane? Well, folks, we can all laugh about it now, but at some unforeseen future date, nobody's going to be laughing. We're going to be fighting these clowns tooth and nail. Because they are going to try to take our guns away and enslave us. I can assure you of that. That's what they're practicing for. As soon as they pull the plug and the economy comes tumbling down and the things begin to happen in this country that are happening now in Mexico, you'll find out. Oh, yes, you will. I wish you wouldn't. I wish I could protect you from it. I wish there was something that I could do to stop it. And if all of us would wake up, we could stop it, but that's not going to happen, is it? Just enough of us are going to wake up in order to make it awfully hard for them to do what they want to do. Maybe, if we're lucky, we'll stop them. I think we will. I really believe that we're going to stop them. Not only stop them, but hurt them bad. So bad they'll wish they never tried it in the first place. That's what I believe. And I know that whatever starts it, they have to do it first, and you better understand that. U.S. Customs agents used a condemned building to set off explosions and stage a fake raid. Unannounced, in the middle of a neighborhood. The unannounced March 3rd training exercise at 125 Lemon Street terrified many in the neighborhood who said explosions rang out for 45 minutes as heavily armed members of a customs SWAT team and police swarmed the structure. Now, forgive me, folks, but aren't customs agents to deal with excise, import and export taxes and inspect baggage for illegal stuff coming in the country and all that kind of stuff? What's going on? Anybody out there know? Tell your neighbors, because I already know. Sounded like bombs going off, and I hid under the desk, said Ruth Ellis, a secretary at Greater St. Paul Baptist Church. Seeing the black uniforms, a Cocoa police officer with full protection gear, and others hidden behind cars across the street, my first instinct was to take cover where there were no windows. Greater St. Paul pastor, the Reverend W.O. Wells, said, "It's ridiculous. People running around with automatic weapons and grenades or what sounded like bombs going off." At the city council meeting, officials said the problem was caused by a communications breakdown. Oh, baloney. These things are designed to terrorize the public so that you won't resist when the real thing happens. And so you will turn upon your neighbor and agree with them when they say he was a drug dealer, or he was a terrorist, or he was a cultist. You'll say, knew there was something wrong with that dude all the time. Oh, don't hit me no more, officer. I'm on your side. That's what most of you are going to do. How do I know that? All I got to do is look at history. All I got to do is look what happened every place that has happened throughout the world, throughout all the years that written history has been recorded by humankind. And I can tell you that's exactly what's going to happen. Some of us, probably the same percentage that brought this country into being, will fight tooth and nail with every weapon and every means at our disposal and preserve our liberty for as long as we possibly can. And if we can, we will win the battle. And if we win the battle, you better hope we're good guys. Because all you fence sitters and flotsam and jetsam, we're going to be at the mercy of the winner. If I'm in charge, you got nothing to worry about, you see. But I can't guarantee that I'll be in charge. I can't even guarantee that I'll be alive. So you all got some thinking to do. Good night, and God bless you all.